Everything Apple Pro here, and the day has finally come. Apple has announced the new iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus. So with this video, I'm going to be highlighting all of the differences between the phones. I know a lot of people are going to be upgrading or buying these phones, and a lot of people want to know the difference between the 6s and 6s Plus. So with this video, I'm going to give you the best idea about these devices and how they differentiate feature-wise, spec-wise, usability-wise. I want to give you the best possible idea about both of these devices and which one is better suited for you and why. Now, the iPhone 6s Plus has some unique features that Apple didn't really talk about that differentiate them from the 6s. So there is a good reason to upgrade to it, and there's a good reason to just stay at the form factor of the iPhone 6s. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and let me share with you guys why you should upgrade to the 6s Plus or why you should stay with the 6s. Now, both of these devices were just announced today. They both come in a new rose gold color, and they both have the new 3D touch as well as a complete overhaul of the internals. They're faster in both downloads, processing power, GPU. I mean, these things really are the future, and they blow the iPhone 6 out of the water. Now, deciding between these can be a little bit difficult, and I understand that because not only is the display larger, there's some other factors too to consider between choosing one or the other of these devices. So let's talk about display first. Apple did change up the actual material of the glass. It's now made with a dual ion exchange process, which makes it twice as durable as the ion strengthened glass on the iPhone 6. So what this means is both of these devices will do good in drop tests. Whether or not the 6s Plus with its larger display will be more susceptible to damage, I don't know. We're going to test that in the future, but for now, both do have very durable materials, and that includes the new Aluminium 7000 construction. This new alloy is actually taken straight from the Apple Watch. Both of these will be incredibly durable, so you don't need to worry about the 6s Plus bending more than the 6s like it was the case with the 6 Plus and 6. Both are going to be equally durable, and I will be putting that to the test in my future durability tests once I have the devices. As for screens, of course, the iPhone 6s Plus is going to have the slightly larger one at 5.5 inches, whereas the 6s is just going to have the 4.7 inch display. Now, the resolutions didn't change from the 6 to 6s. However, they are different between these devices. The iPhone 6s has a 1334 by 750 pixel display. That equals 326 pixels per inch, which makes it Retina standard. However, the iPhone 6s Plus takes it up a notch. The resolution is slightly higher as it has a 1920 by 1080p display. That equals out to about 401 pixels per inch. So what this means is it has roughly about a 23% sharper display. Now, the only catch is when you're using third-party applications, not everybody optimizes the applications to match the iPhone 6s or iPhone 6 Plus displays. They're mostly using the resolution of the iPhone 6s or iPhone 6. Now, that's not really all that bad because you can't really tell the difference, but apps do look so much better when they're optimized for the slightly higher resolution display on the 6s Plus. So take that into consideration if you're buying it for the quality of the display. Not all third-party apps are optimized for the 6s Plus. However, the display is sharper when using stock applications. When using the internet, you will notice there is a definite increase in sharpness on the iPhone 6s Plus, especially when you put it really close to your face. You can really start to tell the difference between both of these devices. Now, this isn't really all that important, but the iPhone 6s Plus does have a slightly lower contrast ratio than the iPhone 6s. It's a 1400 to 1 on the 6s and 1300 to 1 on the iPhone 6s Plus. That means darker colors will be more dark on the iPhone 6s, but it will be such a small difference that it's going to be around 7%. You won't even notice the difference, but it will be there. Now, between these devices, in terms of measurements, the iPhone 6s Plus, of course, is going to be the larger phone. It's actually a lot bigger. And not a lot of people know this, but the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus actually grew in terms of thickness, and they're taller than the iPhone 6 Plus and 6. However, it's not all that noticeable. They did grow in heft considerably with the Force Touch display. So between these, the iPhone 6s Plus is about just 0.2 millimeters thicker than the iPhone 6, 7.3 millimeters versus 7.1. That's not very noticeable. I mean, when you grab them in your hand, you can't really tell the difference. And besides, the thicker the phone, the slightly more durable it could be. And the iPhone 6s, of course, is considerably lighter than the 6s Plus. So if you lug this thing around a lot, you will notice there's a little bit more heft to the 6s Plus, but that really shouldn't even be a considering factor between these. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Now, as far as usability, let's talk usability because that is a lot. That's a very big deciding factor for me when I choose a phone. Let me tell you about my experience with the 6 Plus. When I first picked it up, when I first went to the Apple Store, tried it out, I was sold. I didn't want to go back to the smaller display. Although it's so much more comfortable to use the iPhone 6s, the 6s Plus, that display and the form factor, it makes it a truly unique device. You can see more on the display. It really is more important for me to have a larger display, but usability suffers. With the iPhone 6 Plus, to use it with one hand is more difficult. You have to train your hand with acrobatics to hold this thing, and to be able to reach in the top of the display is very difficult with the 6s Plus. On the 6s, however, it's very simple. This thing with one-handed operation is a breeze. So if you use your device with one hand a lot, and that's important to you, that's an important considering factor for the iPhone 6s. So it does suffer with the 6s Plus. However, reachability does help, where you double tap on the Touch ID sensor and it brings the screen down. That does help a little bit. However, like I said, if you're going to be using this with one hand a lot, the 6s is clearly the winner. Now, not to mention, the 6s Plus is going to be the more slippery device. It's hard for me to keep a firm grasp on this compared to the 6s. It's definitely a lot easier to wrap your hand around it and hold on to it. So if you don't use your phone with a case, the iPhone 6s would probably be a better choice, because the 6s Plus is very difficult to hold on to. Trust me on that. I've dropped it so much more than my iPhone 6 models. Now, there is another difference in terms of software. The iPhone 6s Plus actually has custom built software for it when you turn it into landscape mode. In settings, for example, on the iPhone 6s Plus, you'll get a custom view just like this, and it's so easy to operate this. I mean, it looks almost like an iPad mini. So pretty much software is built and optimized for the iPhone 6s Plus. Not to mention, you can rotate on the actual home screen like this. It's really cool. And a lot of third-party applications do take advantage of this as well. So you get more real estate to do whatever you want with the software. And it's really cool that it has a custom skin in certain landscape areas. So that's one area where the iPhone 6s Plus has an advantage over the 6s. Now, another thing I wanted to mention, inadvertently, when I bought my iPhone 6 Plus originally, it replaced my iPad mini. I used to use it all the time, but the display is, it's not as big, of course, but you can do so much more on a larger display. It completely replaced my iPad mini. And that's not just me. So many people have replaced their iPads with their iPhone 6 Plus, and the same will happen with the 6s Plus. It's just a good side effect of owning a larger phone. Now, next, here's an area that a lot of people don't talk about in order to consider before buying a larger phone or a smaller phone using the same CPU or GPU. So in the case of the 6s and 6s Plus, both phones are using the same processing power, right? Well, the iPhone 6s Plus has more pixels to push. That means GPU performance will suffer when using heavy intensive applications such as gaming. So you don't know this, but performance is slightly better on the iPhone 6s using the same GPU and CPU, but running a smaller display size. It really will make a difference. However, it's not as noticeable if you're not using the performance to the max on the GPU and CPU. So real quick to sum it up, basically the 6s Plus has more pixels to push, so GPU performance will suffer as a result. However, it's not as noticeable as you think unless you're doing something really crazy intensive. Now, this is an area where the 6s Plus will always have a clear advantage over the iPhone 6s, and that's with the cameras. So the rear camera on the 6s Plus has optical image stabilization. It basically has a little stabilizer motor inside of here that when you're taking video, taking pictures, you'll get a much more stable picture or video, especially when you're taking video. There really is a difference, and in my reviews I'll be showing you that, but it's definitely a clear advantage. If you're heavy on photography, if you're heavy on video, you'll get so much better quality on both using the 6s Plus. I mean, the iPhone 6s will have digital video stabilization, however, it's not the same. Actually having a little motor move around in there really does make a difference. It makes your video so much more stable while walking, while running. You will notice a massive difference there. That's not important for you, sure, but for a lot of people, taking pictures really does make a difference. It's not as susceptible to blur while your hand shakes, so you'll get a better picture every single time. So far we got a sharper resolution display, we got a better camera, we got all around a better experience with the software, but battery life is big on the iPhone 6s Plus. Now, the 6s and 6s Plus didn't really get a jump in battery life. Actually, they stayed exactly the same as the 6 and 6 Plus. However, between the 6s and the 6s Plus, there is a massive difference in battery life. So for a lot of people that use your phone at work all day and you don't usually have access to a battery, the iPhone 6s Plus has a lot better battery life than the iPhone 6s. That translates to about a 30 to 40% increase in battery life. So the actual mAh for these phones, for the iPhone 6s is 1715, for the iPhone 6s Plus is 2750. That's a downgrade from the earlier generation iPhones. However, it's still the same battery life because of the more efficient internals. So in terms of actual specs, you get 10 days of standby on the iPhone 6s, 16 on the iPhone 6s Plus. That right there is a massive difference. Actually, for audio, 80 hours on the 6s Plus, 50 hours on the 6s, and for video, you get 14 hours on the iPhone 6s Plus and 11 on the 6s. And internet on LTE, 12 hours on the 6s Plus, 10 hours on the 6s. So there you go, guys. That's the massive difference in battery life between these devices. And personally, with the 6 Plus and 6, there was such a massive difference between the two. I mean, that alone could sway a lot of people over to the 6s Plus. So you get really damn good battery life. Not to mention iOS 9 will have a low power mode and optimized efficiency, so you'll get really good battery life, especially in a pinch when you need to preserve what you have. Low power mode will come in handy on both, but the 6s Plus, clearly the advantage right there. So as far as pricing goes, there's a $100 difference in all tiers of these devices. So whether you're getting the lower 16 gigabyte or the higher 128, there's a $100 difference between every single one. So for $100, what do you get on the 6s Plus that the iPhone 6s does not offer? For one, great improvements in battery life. I mean, there really is a massive difference, about 30 to 40% better battery life on the 6s Plus. Two, you get a larger display, which may not be a big deal for some, but it's also 23% sharper. So all of your pictures, all of your media will appear much better, much sharper. And it's a lot easier on a larger display to do things, to play games, to watch movies. It really is a better experience. So that alone, larger display can mean a lot. There's also a custom skin for the iPhone 6s Plus on iOS 9. You'll be able to rotate the phone sideways and do different things that the iPhone 6s cannot. So landscape view is optimized for the larger display on the iPhone 6s Plus. It also can replace your iPad mini in some cases. There's also optical image stabilization. So if video or photography is very important for you on the iPhones, the iPhone 6s Plus will do much better, especially in movement when your hands are shaking. You will not notice that so much on the video due to the optical image stabilization, which the 6s is lacking. So there you go. That's what you get for $100 with the iPhone 6s Plus. But it may not be enough for you to upgrade from the 6s. The 6s, on the other hand, it has an easier one-handed operation. It's a lot easier to hold and use with one hand. It doesn't have as great of battery life, but at the same time, it is cheaper. So if you don't need all those things, for $100 less, you'll get the 6s, and it's almost as capable as the 6s Plus, except in some areas. It could also have better GPU performance if you're really pushing the processor to the limit in some areas because it has less pixels to push. And the contrast ratio is a little bit higher. But again, that really doesn't make a difference unless you really have an eye for contrast. So guys, there you go. That's the iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus. They're very similar in most areas. It's just these little tiny areas that may matter to you that the iPhone 6s Plus excels at. It's not as easy to use with one hand. It's definitely more prone to being dropped because of how hard it is to hold with one hand. But overall, in so many areas, it does push past the 6s with better battery life, better camera stability, better resolution, and better optimized software in landscape view. So if those are important to you, the $100 is certainly worth it for the iPhone 6s Plus. Now guys, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to give you guys an idea between these devices. Hopefully with this video, I could give you that idea. And at the end of this, you'll know which device is better suited for you. Overall, both devices will surely be great. However, the 6s Plus is just that much better. Thanks for watching this video, guys. And I'll have full reviews, full comparisons for both devices on my channel very soon. And I do hope you stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if it did help you. I do really appreciate that. They're not the